Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com and type in promo code VOLS, that's VOLS, at checkout to fill your freezer with enough gourmet food to keep your cookouts going strong into the fall. That is omahasteaks.com, promo code VOLS.
But just to lay some groundwork here, this is a discussion that I wanted to have before we get into the nitty gritty of like this matchup with this player with LSU, is to just think about this if you're a Tennessee fan. Because I was doing a show earlier today for my friend Mark Rogers, great, another YouTuber on here. Go watch his show if you don't. Um, but I hadn't thought about it. But this is the truth of this situation with LSU. If you beat LSU this week, and then your only loss for the rest of the season is Alabama, or the rest of the season up to the Georgia game. And I believe the Georgia game is the second to last game of the season. It's really late this year, if I'm thinking correctly. Am I wrong
Yeah,
about that?
it's in November. I'm not sure the
Yeah,
exact week, but it's into November.
it's really late. But if Tennessee only loses to Alabama for the Georgia game will be for the SEC East. You, in year 2 with Josh Heupel, have the potential to actually contend for an SEC East championship, with Georgia being this juggernaut that it's become with this talent. Of course, they almost lost to Missouri. Do it that way, you will. But I mean, how? I thought about that today, and it had not crossed my mind up until I was doing that interview earlier today. And I was like, what? How is that even possible? That's real. You can lose to Alabama and still contend for the East this year. It's absolutely insane. So there's going to be a lot of riding on every single game from here on out. But just think about that. If you pull off this big win, that's what's on the line, man. It's absolutely crazy.
No, it's a massive game from that aspect. Could put Tennessee in a position that we didn't think they would be in. Also, it could give Josh Heupel, something we were texting about yesterday, it could give Josh Heupel his third win over a ranked opponent on the road. And he would be the first coach to do that since Philip Fulmer did it between 1992 and 94. 3 road wins against ranked opponents in your first 18 games. Fulmer did it with, I think, a couple of wins against Georgia, and I think they beat somebody else. Can't remember who in 93 there. But I mean, almost 30 years since somebody's done that at Tennessee, and as many coaches as Tennessee's had over the last 15 years, 10 years, it's kind of insane that is the situation here for Heupel. But it's one of these games where I don't really know what to expect. It's kind of like the Florida game where I thought I was going to learn a lot about Tennessee in that Florida game, and I really didn't. I learned that they know how to win an ugly game, and I kind of have the feeling that this game could turn into that again. Just the way LSU plays, they force a lot of turnovers, but they're not real good on offense. They don't really have an identity yet on offense. They're not throwing the ball really well. I mean, I think they had like 5 passing yards or something absurd in the second half against Auburn, which ironically was the lowest amount of passing yards that a team has had in one half in a win since LSU beat Tennessee in that 2017 monsoon game, which was a
Really?
bit more understandable given the situation. There wasn't a lot of throwing going on in the second half of that game. But so I do think it has a potential to turn into kind of an ugly game, but Tennessee won games like that against Pittsburgh and Florida this year, games where things didn't necessarily go to plan for Tennessee, but they still found a way to win. So I think the experience in those games is really going to serve Tennessee well, not only the rest of the season, because you got some games on the schedule outside the Alabama-Georgia game. You still got Kentucky game that could get ugly. Perhaps this Missouri game is going to be a little more difficult than we anticipated, though I think
Maybe.
the situation there with Georgia, the way some people put it is it's a terrible place to play. There is no atmosphere there. You go to Columbia where there's nothing, and you sit around all day in a hotel if you're Georgia, because the game wasn't until Saturday night. It's just an odd vibe. And Missouri's defense last year was terrible. They get a new defensive coordinator in Blake Baker, a guy that doesn't really have a great reputation. I mean, he was demoted at Miami when Manny Diaz was there, kind of spent a year as a position coach at LSU. Not a guy that you really associate with these great defenses, and they kind of had their way with Georgia's offensive line. So Was that an aberration? Is that indicative of Georgia having some weaknesses up front that is kind of a surprise to people? Maybe we'll find out more as the season progresses, but that was certainly an interesting outcome. But that Missouri game now I kind of look at a little bit different. It is at home. I still think Tennessee wins that game. I'm not saying anything like that, but there's a lot of ugly games on the schedule that Tennessee might have to win this year.
Oh, yeah.
From tailgate parties to busy weeknights, the flavor experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to savor all the flavors of fall with their mouthwatering assortments of perfectly aged steaks, ultra juicy burgers, and easy to prepare comfort meals that are ready in a flash. Right now, take advantage of 50% off site wide by shopping their semi annual sale. The sale only happens twice a year and it is on right now. You get 50% off delicious customer favorites. And when you use promo code VOLS, that is VOLS at checkout, you get an additional $30 off your order. And guys, I've had the burgers, I've had the Franks, I've had the chicken from Omaha Steaks. It is all phenomenal. Comes in this great freezer packed way right to your door. Incredibly convenient. I can't say enough about it, honestly. So don't wait. Go to omahasteaks.com and enter Vols at checkout and stock up on fall flavor today. Omaha Steaks is perfect for those chilly and busy fall nights with entrees that are ready before the kids can even say what's for dinner. And don't forget to use the promo code Vols at checkout and score your extra $30 off. Omaha Steaks isn't just steak. It is the best steak of your life, guaranteed. That's omahasteaks.com. Promo code Vols at checkout. Minimum order may be required. Omaha Steaks. Promo code Vols.
Nothing about this is going to be easy. Yeah, your favorite going to LSU. Yeah, the time works in your favor. The 11 a.m. start time works in your favor. But this is never going to be some kind of cakewalk, even when you're playing, a Missouri, even if they stink out loud. Like, it's just not – that's SEC football. But when I look at this, you win this game 10-2 is the most likely outcome. I do think you'll probably beat Kentucky because it's at home. If it was in Lexington, it'd be tougher, but you beat them in Lexington last year. And that game's in Neyland Stadium, and that's easily the toughest game outside of Alabama and Georgia. If you just sort of default call those losses, even though I think Tennessee really could be competitive at both this year. But I mean, 10-2, that's it'll almost be disappointing if they don't hit 10-2 if you win this game. Like that's
no, for sure, because you're going to be favored.
In.
You're going to be favored in every game, but that Alabama and Georgia game. Unless things just go completely south for Tennessee, you're going to be favored against Kentucky at home. You're going to be favored against Missouri at home. You're certainly going to be favored against South Carolina and Vanderbilt on the road to end the season. So, yeah, if you win this game, I think 10-2 has to be the expectation, and that's based. I don't think that's putting too high of expectations on Josh Heupel. I think those expectations are based on what we've seen him do, and it's like, yes, this team is capable of going 10-2 and possibly getting to the Sugar Bowl and winning 11 games. I mean, which is insane to think about, considering where the program was, less than 2 years ago. Never thought we'd be sitting here having this conversation, like a legitimate conversation about this. This isn't just us being Tennessee fans and throwing out these absurd expectations that just aren't realistic. I mean, it's not like we're sitting here saying that Tennessee's got a chance to make the playoff, even though they are in a position where a few things break their way, it is technically still possible. I don't expect it to happen. I don't think Tennessee has the depth to make it happen. I think that's where Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, some of these teams, they have the advantage where teams get beaten up late in the season, and they got the guys that can still go out there and compete. I mean, we already saw today that Tennessee lost to Warren Burrow for the rest of the season, and say what you will about him, but I think Tennessee missed him against Florida, and they're fortunate that they're supposedly getting D. Williams finally ready to play this week, the junior college transfer that got high hopes for. But still, that losing Burrow hurts your defense a lot. I mean, that's a significant depth piece in a position unit where you didn't have a lot of depth to begin with. So that's probably what's going to hurt Tennessee later on in the season against a team like Georgia. Gonna keep that playoff thing probably from happening, but I still think 10-2 is you win this week. Yeah, I agree that does kind of become the expectation.
I was talking to Austin Stanley and Jonathan Crompton, and we were like, oh yeah, I'm already talking myself into like an 11-1 season, how Tennessee could pull it off,
Mm.
just typical Tennessee fan stuff. And I was thinking like the most amazing way that this could shake out, if you obviously outside of going undefeated, which I think is a little above what any of us need to be expecting of Josh Heupel this season.
Yeah.
The ideal outcome would be you beat Alabama, then you lose to Georgia. It's in Athens. I mean, that's just a bear of a game. You lose to Georgia, and then Georgia loses the SEC championship game. So then you make the playoff. Georgia doesn't make the playoff, and Alabama makes the playoff after winning the SEC championship game. So you kick Georgia out of the playoff. Tennessee makes it in, and
Hey,
Alabama makes it in.
we've seen it before. I mean, what was
It
it?
would be
LSU?
so amazing.
Was it LSU or Alabama in that? Was it the 2011 season when LSU and Alabama didn't they play each other in the championship game that year? Like it was a rematch of the SEC
Yes.
championship game or something, or no, it was a rematch of their regular season meeting, but one of them didn't reach the SEC championship game, and because of that is the reason that they were actually able to like back into the BCS championship game at that time.
Yeah, that's the only reason that Alabama has not missed the playoff was because of that. They ended up backdooring their way in that year.
And the thing with Tennessee is that if they're 11-1 and there's another, and they don't, get to the SEC championship game, and there's another 11-1 team, I mean, I know it's not supposed to work this way, but I think just the idea of having Tennessee and this insane fan base in the playoff is very appealing, and I think Tennessee would kind of trump whoever else was at 11-1 to get. I mean, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, and that's a crazy scenario that would have to play out. But it is, I mean, it is a conversation worth having because Tennessee is a top 10 team, and anytime Alabama or Georgia plays a top 10 team, they're on upset alert, and everybody in the country's hoping that they get upset. So, I mean, this is Tennessee beats LSU, and this is the conversation that's going to be happening nationwide ahead of that Alabama game on October 15th.
Yeah, Tennessee being good is a gift to ESPN, to CBS, to anybody like that, because the fan base is just so rabid, and they're just a magnet for drama. And so, like you're saying, their other fan bases want to tune in and see Tennessee lose, or they're like kind of cheering for the underdog story, whatever it may be. And then obviously Tennessee fans. I mean, you just look at that Florida game, the amount of mobilization within the Tennessee fan base, just how they will travel, how they will spend money, how crazy rabid they are on social media, wherever it may be, watching the game at home. It's absolutely insane. And that is something that I'm sure that all of those networks and everybody is hoping will be the case, is to get Tennessee back in that upper echelon, because they're on a different plane of existence from most of college football in terms of the fan base. So I wanted to start off with that to kind of lay the stakes of this game.